They erased me from their memories, but I remember everything. The world tilted on its axis the Tuesday after my 31st birthday. I woke up with the familiar weight of my cat, Marmalade, curled on my chest, the smell of stale coffee lingering from the day before. Everything felt normal, routine. I got out of bed, stretched, and headed to the kitchen, the usual morning fog slowly lifting. I reached for my phone on the counter, the screen lighting up with a notification, a message from Liam. Liam, my best friend since kindergarten. We'd navigated awkward school dances, disastrous first dates, and the confusing landscape of early adulthood together. His name was always the first one I saw in my messages. But the message wasn't the usual sarcastic meme or a plan for the weekend. It was a generic birthday greeting, addressed to someone named Sarah. Confusion flickered through me. Liam knew my name was Maya. Had he sent it to the wrong person? I opened his contact. My name wasn't there. It was Sarah, and our entire message history was gone. A cold knot of unease tightened in my stomach. I scrolled through my contacts. My parents were listed, but their numbers were unfamiliar. My sister, Chloe, wasn't there at all. My heart began to pound. This couldn't be right. I opened my photo gallery. Hundreds of pictures were missing. Snapshots of birthdays, holidays, nights out with Liam and Chloe, family gatherings. The timeline jumped erratically, leaving gaping holes in my memories. Panic began to set in, sharp and suffocating. Had I somehow lost my entire digital life? Had my contacts been wiped, my photos deleted? But even as the thought formed, a deeper, more terrifying feeling took root. It wasn't just my phone. It was something else. I rushed to the living room, where the framed photos on the mantelpiece usually greeted me. The picture of Liam and me, goofy and grinning at our high school graduation, was gone. The photo of Chloe and me on our last vacation was missing. The family portrait from Christmas last year had vanished, replaced by a generic landscape painting I'd never seen before. My breath hitched. This wasn't a technological glitch. This was something else. I grabbed my keys and ran out of the apartment, the familiar hallway feeling strangely sterile, the faces of my neighbors unfamiliar. I hurried to Liam's apartment building, my mind racing, desperately trying to find a rational explanation. He opened the door, a polite but distant smile on his face. He looked different, not physically, but something in his eyes, a lack of recognition. "Hi," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "It's Maya." He frowned, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. "Maya, I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong apartment. I'm expecting Sarah." Sarah, the name from the birthday message. The name in my contacts. "Liam, it's me," I insisted, my voice rising in desperation. "We've known each other our whole lives. Don't you remember?" His brow furrowed. I don't know you." His gaze was polite but utterly blank. There was no spark of recognition, no hint of the years we had shared. The world swam before my eyes. He didn't remember me. Liam, my best friend, didn't know who I was. I stumbled back, a wave of nausea washing over me. I went to Chloe's workplace, a small bookstore downtown. Her usual warm smile didn't greet me. She looked at me with polite indifference. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice unfamiliar, lacking the teasing warmth of my sister. "Chloe, it's Maya," I said, my voice cracking. "Your sister." Her eyes widened slightly, a hint of confusion crossing her face. I don't have a sister." The words hit me like a physical blow. My own sister didn't remember me. I went to my parents' house, a place that had always been my sanctuary. They opened the door, their faces kind but their eyes devoid of recognition. They introduced themselves, their names the same, but their demeanor that of polite strangers. They didn't remember me. My own family had no memory of my existence. The realization crashed down on me, heavy and absolute. It wasn't just my phone, my photos. It was them. Everyone I knew, everyone I loved, had no memory of me. I had been erased from their lives, from their memories. But I remembered everything, every shared laugh, every whispered secret, every moment that had defined my life. It was all still there, vivid and real, in my mind. I was a ghost in my own life, a stranger among those I held dearest. Days turned into a blur of confusion and despair. I wandered through the city, the familiar streets now alien, the faces of people I knew looking right through me. My apartment was still mine, filled with my belongings, the only place where my existence hadn't been completely wiped away. Marmalade still purred on my lap, her familiar presence a small anchor in this shifting reality. I tried to understand what had happened. Had I imagined my entire life? Was I somehow delusional? But the memories were too real, too vivid. The pain of their oblivion was too sharp. I started to observe them from a distance. Liam laughing with a group of people I didn't recognize, Chloe chatting animatedly with coworkers who were strangers to me, my parents holding hands, their faces etched with a life I was no longer a part of. They seemed happy, content, their lives continuing seamlessly without me. It was as if I had never existed. The isolation was crushing. I was surrounded by the ghosts of my past, living in a present where I was invisible. The world had moved on, rewritten itself, and I was the anomaly, the one who remembered a reality that no longer existed for anyone else. One evening, I found an old photo album in a dusty box in my closet. It was filled with physical photographs, tangible proof of a life they had all forgotten. Pictures of my childhood, my teenage years, my early adulthood, all featuring me, standing beside them, smiling, a part of their world. I showed them to Liam, my hands trembling. He looked at the photos with polite curiosity, identifying himself and Chloe as children, recognizing his parents, but the girl standing beside them, smiling at the camera, was a stranger to him. Chloe reacted similarly, examining the photos with a detached interest, acknowledging the familiar faces but unable to place the unknown girl beside them. My parents looked at the images with a vague sense of familiarity, like looking at old acquaintances they couldn't quite recall. The physical proof of our shared past meant nothing. I was a ghost, haunting the edges of their lives, holding on to memories that were mine alone. Despair threatened to consume me. What was the point of remembering if no one else did? Was I destined to live out my days as an invisible observer, a relic of a forgotten timeline? But a flicker of something else began to stir within me, a stubborn refusal to be erased. If I was the only one who remembered, then I had to understand why. What had happened? What had caused this collective amnesia, this rewriting of my existence? I started to investigate, searching for any clue, any anomaly that might explain what had happened. I revisited places that held significant memories for us, hoping for a spark of recognition, a glitch in their manufactured reality. But everything was as it should be, as if my memories were the only ones out of sync. I researched memory loss, mass suggestion, anything that could explain such a widespread phenomenon. But nothing fit. There was no logical explanation for the complete erasure of my existence from the minds of everyone I knew. Then, I remembered something Liam had mentioned years ago, a fleeting conversation about a strange local legend, whispers of a phenomenon where people would inexplicably vanish from others' memories, leaving no trace. It had seemed like a silly ghost story at the time. Now, it felt chillingly relevant. I started digging into local archives, old newspapers, forgotten town records. The legend was vague, tied to a specific location on the outskirts of town, an old abandoned observatory rumored to have strange properties. A sense of purpose began to form. If there was an explanation, it might be there. It was a long shot, a desperate grasp at a thread of hope, but it was all I had. The abandoned observatory stood on a hill overlooking the town, its dome rusted, its windows broken. It exuded an air of forgotten science and eerie silence. Inside, dust lay thick on outdated equipment, the air heavy with the smell of decay. As I explored the crumbling structure, I found a hidden room in the basement, filled with strange devices and handwritten notes. The notes spoke of experiments with perception, with the manipulation of memory, with the blurring lines between reality and consciousness. The handwriting was old, but something about it felt familiar. Then I found a photograph tucked inside one of the journals. It was a picture of a younger Liam, Chloe, my parents, and a man I didn't recognize, standing slightly apart, with a thoughtful, intense gaze. The handwriting beneath the photo read, "The architect of forgetting." A cold dread washed over me. This wasn't a natural phenomenon. This was deliberate. Someone had done this. Someone had erased me. The notes hinted at a process, a technology that could alter memories on a mass scale, focusing on specific individuals. The purpose was unclear, shrouded in cryptic scientific jargon and philosophical musings about the nature of identity and connection. As I pieced together the fragments of information, a terrifying possibility emerged. The man in the photograph, could he be connected to me? Was I the target of this erasure? And why? The answer came in a final, chilling note. To truly sever a connection, you must erase all memory of its existence. The subject will become a ghost, unseen and unremembered, effectively ceasing to exist within the shared reality. I was the subject. I had been deliberately erased. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. The world hadn't just forgotten me, it had been made to forget me. Standing in the dusty silence of the abandoned observatory, surrounded by the remnants of a forgotten science, a new resolve hardened within me. They might have erased me from their memories, but I remembered everything. And I would find out why. I would uncover the truth behind this deliberate act of forgetting. I would make them remember. My existence might have been erased from their minds, but my determination to reclaim my life, my memories, and my place in their world burned brighter than ever. I was a ghost, but I was a ghost who remembered, and I would not be silenced.